Hey all, Armed Turret here. This week I took a slightly different approach to my work. You see, adding new features constantly is cool and all, but sometimes you need to focus on making your game fun and fair. At least that's what my legal team tells me. Anyway, this week I took a minute and slowed down my development just a little to work on tweaking the game, to make things a bit more playable. First off, I didn't spend the entire week balancing. I did add one new feature. I present to you the Sand Trap. This little bugger lies in wait for an unsuspecting player to step on it before it yoinks one of their items. The only way for the unsuspecting victim to get their item back is by digging it out with a shovel. Currently, as you can see by the footage, it's a little disorienting to have your item suddenly vanish from your hand. But I have plans to fix it by, say, adding a noise whenever your item gets taken. After I implemented this creature, I sought to balance the seabed section overall. First off, I made this part of the game way smaller. Now players don't have to spend as much time walking in a straight line back and forth. Although, getting lost in the dark is still very easy on the way back to the drop cage. I also fixed some spacing calculations in the level generation, so terrain features are now tightly packed and no longer in a perfect circle. This means that you're not just staring at sand for 40 minutes. This, though, has quickly exposed the very limited testing set I made for details, so I probably should add more at some point. Sounds like a whole load of not my problem if you ask me. Next up, I made a few modifications to items. First off, I added a count to the side of beacon boxes to show how many beacons are in the box. This allows players to carefully plan out how many beacons they have, although this number is still a little bit too low in my opinion. I also added a distance measurement to the scanner, meaning players can actually plan out to their approach. No longer shall players wander back and forth across the map in the literal longest route possible. Lastly, I made a couple changes to how enemies work. I vastly increased the rate at which enemies spawn to compensate for this smaller level, but it's still not enough. Playtesting exposed that the first time an enemy spawned, players had nearly completed the level. I'm going to increase the ramp rate to hopefully compensate for this. I also added a noise to the kelp to indicate its presence. Now you won't just die instantly when it spawns in. However, this noise is still a bit quiet, so I intend to bump it up in a later patch. Next week, I'm planning to actually add test noises to all the enemies, so players can hopefully learn them and react accordingly. Audio design is, in my opinion, one of the most important parts of a horror game, so I'm going to spend a lot of time on making some unique sound effects to really reflect the situation. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment or something. Pretty please? In the meantime, I have a Trello board to burn.